looks like we are live. Alrighty. Welcome to That Critical Idiot. I'm your host, Gavin, and yeah. Welcome everybody to That Critical Idiot. I am your host, Gavin, and this is a little bit of a different feel. I've never really done much live stuff. I've done audio work, and that's definitely something that I've done. I've dabbled in. It's there. It's been there. But where do I begin? That's the title of this episode. Now, where do I begin? What this is a podcast for GM tips, DM tips, whatever you'd prefer for tabletop RPGs. Probably primarily in the ones that I'm dabbling in. So Pathfinders, the name of the one that's the most popular has left my mind. Dungeons and Dragons, that's the one. So it's pretty much the Dungeons and Dragons Pathfinders. Right now I'm dabbling in a little bit of GURPS and stuff like that, and just kind of an overall view of how things are and what things are going on, and what tips I've learned throughout the years of me doing this, what tips and stuff that I've learned from other people in the recent couple weeks, months, whatever, things that I've learned, and then just some experiences and some just really fond memories that I have had from this, from being in this world, in this community. So, I think it started like, 4 or 5 years ago, give or take. The first little bit of kind of any tabletop thing was a kind of like a half-ass Civilization meets D&D, and it was in the basement bedroom of one of my friends, and we, go over there every week, and we'd play this game. And what it was like, you controlled a civilization, you managed their food, you managed this, you managed that, and one person played, usually they played a civilization as well, I think, more than likely, and they rolled for these every so often. It'd be a random roll day, or we'd have this huge thing going on, he'd roll for that. Random roll day, you roll shit, something bad's gonna happen. Maybe a giant's gonna come and smash through your wall. Now you gotta deal with it. And so that really got me kind of intrigued and sparked on the got me intrigued and sparked on this whole, what is this realm, and where did this come from and stuff. And eventually, not too terribly far into the whole thing, eventually it crumbled. Something happened. People just didn't enjoy it anymore. We didn't have time for it. School was just not working out with the schedule. So we put that to the side and we moved forth, and it kind of left me with a hankering. It's like, you get in there, you start playing it, and it feels amazing. So I did a bunch of research, and I'm like, okay, well, where's this one come from? What's the most popular one? What's the easiest and most modular one? How can I find something that people can sit down, play, and have this really cool experience? So with this really passion and drive, I started looking into it, and I started finding whatever I could, whenever I could. And I stumbled upon, well, of course, we all know D&D. I stumbled upon that, but obviously, at the time, books were like, and still are, like, ridiculous, $60. So, not really the route at the time for me. And so I was like, okay, no problem, I'll find something else. So I started looking at alternatives. I'm like, what would be an alternative to this? Mentioned it to a couple of my friends. One of my friends, he was like, hey, Pathfinders, there's this other one. It's got an entire SRD online. You can pretty much go through all of the stuff without having to pay for the books. You know, you have to do the searching yourself and writing it down, but you know, at least it gives you a basis of what stuff is. And I'm like, this is perfect. So I started reading through. I started jotting things down, and I was like, okay, I want to do something very reminiscent of the Civilization and the D&D. I want to merge the two like we did in the past, and I want to run someone through it. And so the friend who pointed me in the right direction, I go, hey, would you like to come over? Would you like to sit down, and would you like to play this? And, you know, we'll sit down, we'll create your character. I've got all this stuff and knowledge on how to do that. We'll work up on that, and we'll get your character rolling, and we'll get you in the game. So slowly started teaching him, you know, okay, this roll, and I mean, I say teach him, but really at the same point we were both learning the exact same thing at the same time. It was this kind of, I didn't know as much at that point in time. I was fresh into it. I read the rules on certain things, and I bet you 100% there were half of the rules that I skipped over. And there's still half of the rules that occasionally I have to actually look up, because I'm like, well, how do they do that? I haven't read through all the rules, and I certainly haven't read through all the books. My attention span for reading is abysmal, which is a very on the contrary for being a DM, because you got to read things. You got to make sure your thing is good. You got to make sure everything's working. So I ran him through what was essentially my idea of a campaign, and I think probably one of my, in my own opinion, one of my most successful ones. So to kind of kick off the whole tabletop moments, I'll swing back to this. It was called the amount of names that I came up with back then, and the amount of time that it's been since then, I have forgotten the name of the islands. There was a big mass center island. That was the world at the current moment. It was his continent where he could roam and deal with the stuff. Now, every 4 or 5 turns or days that I would set up, he would get a random roll. And that would be much reminiscent to the previous game that I had played, where if you roll good, something good's going to come down. You roll bad, something bad's going to come down. And he slowly starts exploring this island, and he played as a dragon folk, or at the time there was something there, but it got removed. We found it, and it's like a dragonborn, but a little bit different. Has a few features that are a little different here and there, but essentially he played as a flight one. He can't fly, but he can use his wings to glide. And the whole storyline was his dragon race was few and far, and his mission in life was to go find them. So he goes off to find them. He goes and explores. He finds these ruins, dungeon crawls, the basic stuff. Now, constructing all of this, I won half of it. Half the world was never actually really created until he got there, and I thought something up. Which, that's a big part, at least in my opinion, that's a big part of D&D, is unless you're going to sit down and you're going to build the entire campaign, which if you're doing a sandbox open, which was what I was doing, it's good, but unless you're doing, if you're not doing a sandbox, then structure is amazing. But a sandbox open leaves too much to the open for the player. So he could go off and he could say, I'm going to go to this village. If I've structured it for him to go to a different village, now I have to improv. So instead of having the structure, just have the improv. I mean, structure and improv can go hand in hand, and that's fine and dandy, but in all reality, if the structure and the improv are there, then it's good. I had the structure of the economic system. I had the structure of the villains. I had the structure of how the NPCs would deal with him. Would they be happy about him? Would they be friendly? You know, he's a dragon person. That might not kind of go over well. So we worked things through, and he slowly started to build his people back up. He obtained a city. he built up his city. He put money in and resources into making this city better and stronger for his people. And then he came across a lovely place called the 11 Floating Islands. Now, the 11 Floating Islands, they intrigued him. He was like, there are these floating islands. They look really cool, really mythical. There's got to be some rare stuff there. I want to go. This is where we throw in a little bit of a twist. So here is where he starts to go up. He gets into a fight with, I do believe it was centaurs and some orcs. And he dies. And he spent days and days. At one point, I think he lived out of town. So he came in, stayed with me, and we'd play for hours and hours each night. Now, hours and hours each night, he's played this, he's created this lovely, lovely area. He's built up this city, he's gained followers, he's gained friends, he's made relationships with these NPCs, and he dies. And to be fair, that was at my fault for not scaling the challenge, because I didn't know much better than that at the time. So I did what any other person would probably do, and instead of making him re-roll, I added a feature where a god comes and resurrects him and says, I've given you this power of immortality. I've revived you. I will revive you from time to time again in case you do die again. Thank you for being this amazing and wonderful creature in this world and helping these people. And at that point, he had so much tied in with the world that where else was he going to turn? He was going to trust this character. He was going to believe this character. And he was going to be grateful for this character. And so this character said, hey, you're going to the 11 Islands, right? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, perfect. Definitely go up there. It's going to be amazing. So he starts going up, and he starts following the voice of this god. And this god's like, okay, yep, keep going. Everything's going to be fine. Things start to get weird. People start to go, hey, why are you here? One crazy guy comes running up, and he's like, have you heard the voice inside your head? It's lying. I'm seeding doubt in his mind now. He's like, what is this? Why are people telling me that the voice of this god that I'm hearing is lying to me? And why are these people doing everything they can to hush this guy up? So he fights his way through giants and stuff. And at the time, yes, I was very, very, I didn't know the challenge ratings as great or more of the rules. So it was a very whimsical and very, very high fantasy with lots of action rolls. Which there were a lot that were just given because it was just a cool scene and I wanted it to happen. And with that, he keeps fighting these creatures. He keeps going through the islands. He's saving people, and he makes it to this end island. It's big, big black castle sitting atop this island, and it's raining and it's gloomy, but only on this one island. He finally gets up, and he finally gets all this stuff, and he's like, all right, I'm going to go into this castle. And the god says, perfect, I will meet you there. There's a evil villain here. He's horrendous, he's horrible, and you are the one to stop him. And at this point, this was the point where he had been questioning whether or not this god was true, but at the same time, he's worked his way up all the way here. There's no point in turning back. I might as well go in. If it's a trap, it's a trap. If not, I'm going to fight the villain and I'm going to win. He walks into the castle floor and everything's dark. And the doors close and there's no light source. So he's just trapped in this dark, dark bubble of darkness. And the way I described it to him was, it was very silent at one point, and then it transitioned to gasping and fear, and he can hear people. So he's not sure what's going on. He's confused, and then he hears his god's voice talk again. But instead of his god's voice talking to him about fighting the villain or getting this other place, it turns sinister and it tells him that it was never a god and that it was actually an evil god. Well, it was a god, but it was an evil god there to pretty much torment him. And it revived him specifically to let him watch his last sight, his last breath, to watch his entire work and civilization be crumbled underneath him before he dies. And as he hears all this, the bubble of darkness fades away, and he is floating immobilized in the air over top of the city that he has built. He's brought traders in, he's brought guards in, he's dragging people in, and he sees this demonic evil god swoop down and just start destroying and killing and just burning everything to the ground. And it was a point where he didn't expect that. He didn't feel like that was going to happen. He didn't know that that was going to happen. And in that whole realm, it set this whole stage of he can now work for a redemption. He can challenge this demon. So I ended that campaign with that, killed off all the people, and then as a final gesture, I sent him. I used the cover of Actual Good Gods, protected his soul, brought it up to heaven as the demon was about to kill him and take his soul. And now he's standing in front of these higher gods, and they are deeply worried that this demon demon god has risen and destroyed everything. And now he gets on all this stuff, and he's trying to figure out what's going on, and the gods go, look, you can live your day freely here, and you can end your adventures, or we can send your soul to the nether regions. We can send you into hell, pretty much. You can fight your way through, and you can find that demon god that killed your entire civilization, and you can enact revenge, and you can smite him down. And of course, being this heroic character that he wasn't going to turn that down, so he went there. And that's where the campaign ended, as we actually have not been able to pick it up since, because everything has just been too crazy. So that was a fun little story, and a fun little experience, and that was the first real DM experience that I had, and it was a real live experience in which I openly worked towards getting all this. I set everything up, I read up on it, and it worked. It was probably one of my most successful campaigns to this day, which is surprising, but not at the same time, because it's been crazy. I've been learning more and more things, and I'm such a sporadic person. It's like I could be focusing on one thing, and then I could be focusing on another, and it's just this sense of I want to get this done, but then there's other things that I also want to get done. So that's why I started this podcast, is to kind of work towards something that's going to be bigger and better. Work towards something that's more stable and stronger. And with this allows me to share my stories and have my short stories be heard, have these experiences and these tips that I've got be heard, while maintaining the one stable story at a time with the group. Now, there was another point where I met the group that I'm currently with now, that I DM for most part. Every now and then, some of the other group members, they take the DM flag, and they take the honor of being our DM. And that's lovely and amazing, because I never get to play as a player. I get to play as everything but the hero, 9 times out of 10. So when I get to play as a player, it's the most amazing and fun time possible. So What exactly happens when you play as a player after playing a DM? Well, you know things. Like, I know that in Pathfinders, and a common orc's AC is going to be 13, where a goblin's common AC is going to be 16. So, I know I'm going to be hitting for that, but I can't say anything if other people don't know it. And, things like that. You gotta not metagame. You gotta be like, okay, I know his stats this. Can't ask stuff like that, because it ruins the immersion. But knowing so much information and having all this little tidbits of information of this character is weak to this, or this is weak to this, but then everybody else's stuff is different, and that's a good thing to have. But back to the story of other DMs. We have other DMs here and there, and one of them, this was probably one of his most pride and joy moments of how of one of the times that he DM'd, and that was we just come out of a campaign. Our group was a little bit smaller, just some technical difficulties. Some people moved away, some people got busy, so it was two people, and then one person joined us later on in the campaign. Now, we're looking at this campaign, and we start off in a small town, and we go, and these people go, "Hey, would you like to come help us find these people? They're smugglers, and they're causing harm. They've stolen, they've murdered, you name it, they've done it. We'll pay you 150 gold each. Come help us take this caravan out." As level 1 people with some swords, we're like, yes, money is good. 150 gold is amazing. I'm on board. Let's go. We did not once stop to think, hey, maybe we should check out what's going on here. Maybe we should ask some more questions. No. 150 gold each, that's fine. We're good to go. Let's go. So we go, we show up, we sneak in through the bushes, and we approach a caravan. Now this caravan, people wearing leather armor, people wearing, helmets and stuff. A couple people look a little shorter. We didn't think the worst or anything. We were just like, they're probably just, short. No biggie. Let's go. Combat ensues. We start attacking. One of the other players goes and runs one through. I go to swing with my axe. I miss. They fall on the ground. And that's when we realized we weren't the good guys. We were hired by the bad guys. My partner, like my buddy who was playing, the person he ran through was like a 13-year-old boy who was just trying to make it out of the country because the king was ordering these certain people to be executed. So not only were we fighting the wrong side of the war, but we didn't ask questions. And so the whole point of it is this: he got us to do something that was absolutely horrifying without us even being like asking questions, without us doing anything. The hook was the best. It was amazing, and it was wonderful. And that's what put us right on the straight and narrow track to finding and killing the king. We did ridiculous treks to make it to things and places, and it was amazing. The whole inner circle of how that campaign was built was based on this whole, you have made this terrible mistake without asking questions, and now you must fix it. And it had a very good meaning, and it had a very good feel to it, and it was amazing. And things like that are just amazing. A good hook, something that gets you drawn in, something that makes your characters go, this is where I need to be, this is why I need to be here, and this is why I'm going to stay. Now, I had thought, because I've been going on, I've been talking a long time, I had thought that this would be a very good time to break into a segment that I wanted to do, which was comparing specific things, and this one, like comparing specific things between your own generated content and pre-generated content. So buying adventures and making adventures. Making an adventure isn't going to cost you as much. You need the books, the source material, and stuff about the area, the surrounding characters, the creatures, weaponry, anything like that. Those are easy to pick up. But every now and then, Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinders or wherever you get will occasionally drop what are considered pre-generated items. Campaigns, adventures, campaign world settings, stuff that makes your whole world essentially tick. Everything and anything that you could possibly think, they're gonna put it there. 9 times out of 10, it's amazing. You have a story to follow through, you have hooks, you have plots, you have everything detailed out. You have, okay, this character does this character does this. If this character joins the NPCs, or the players, this is how many times they're going to attack, and this is what they have on them. And it was amazing. And it's these things where the world is created by someone else. Someone who sits down and they think about the entirety of the world. They think of the economics. They think about the wars. They think about the hidden wars, the religions, the political sides. Think about everything, and they fine-tune it. That goes for most things. We've run into a couple campaigns in the most recent that didn't pan out as well as we thought. I just got out of running a campaign for the Storm Giant's Thunder. We got about to chapter 4, almost 5, in which we really didn't feel it anymore. Now, this could have been my style of DMing, and more than likely there was a tiny fraction of it that was, but there was no hook. Like, you buy a campaign, and as much as I love putting hooks in, and as much as I love adding more content, I've done it in the past where I've added content to something, and it's just made it ridiculous. So this time around, it was me just going, all right, I'm relinquishing 90% of my control. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to go through it, and it's going to put the campaign for it, and we're going to run through it. Problem with it is that there wasn't a hook at the beginning. My characters had no feel of why they were there. My characters had no idea of what they needed to be there for. Why were they there? Who is going to notice that they were there? They walk into a town that is empty and it's being ransacked by goblins, and there's four guards who aren't doing much. They don't need to be needed there, or do they? See, the difference between pre-made content and your own content is your own content is going to be tailored around your players' needs and wants. If your players want a campaign where they are the only thing needed in the world, everyone will turn to them and bow at their feet at every second, then yes, you're going to want something where they don't need a sense of why am I here? They just need a thing to kill and point in that direction. And that was our group at the beginning. They're like, point us in the direction of something to stab, we'll stab it. But now, the more and more they read into the game, the more and more that they grow as a player and as a person in this tabletop community, they start to think, why am I needed here? If there are high level NPCs, why am I needed? Now, I'd say that the guards had bigger fish to fry, but they really didn't. They were guarding a dead body. They could have locked the dead body in a room, gone and dealt with the goblins, and cleared the town for the citizens to come back. But they didn't. That's not how the story played it out. I could have made them do it. That's not how the story played out, though, and I wanted to play the story. Now, I've had it on other points where the players have to work for the loyalty of people. And yes, NPCs and high-level NPCs especially, and this actually was a thought that I got. I didn't get it from just me thinking about it, but it was a thought and a theory and a tip from a DM called Matthew Colville. I will link his YouTube in whatever links of this podcast you can find. He is an amazing, amazing DM, and I actually look to his YouTube channel a lot when I am in need of tips, or I need something new and fresh to put my mind around. And this is one that I've recently gotten after this whole campaign crumbled over my players going, what are we here for? Who even needs us? Why are they throwing themselves at us? Why do we deserve these items? We didn't earn it. We didn't do it. So, high-level characters in a campaign, you're going to have them. There's going to be the wizard in the tower. There's going to be the alchemist making potions in the shop. There's going to be the captain guard who used to be an adventurer. A grand one, maybe. You never know. He might be the most well-known adventurer in the world, and he's working as a captain guard now. And your adventurers and your players, your PCs, they're going to question why those NPCs are not doing the job that they are doing currently. So, if your player characters are tasked with the captain guard coming up and going, hey, how about, since you guys are adventurers, can you go and clear this goblin encampment out, and us as the city will pay you for the service? Now, they might be met with resistance. Well, why can't the city guard just go do it? In which your players aren't really challenging you, as more of a question of, why can't the bigger and more authoritative people go and deal with it? Why do they want little people to deal with it? Why do they want the people who don't have a name in the world yet to go do it? And it may not occur to them right off the bat that it's to get their name out there, to start building a fame, because that's metagaming. They're not looking at that. They're looking at their character going, you guys are obviously tougher, you guys are obviously stronger, you guys are obviously more well equipped. Why do I have to do it? In which the city guard has a duty to protect the city. They have patrols. They have hourly times. They need to be here at this time. They need to be there at this time. They need to make sure that there are no drunk people fighting other people or killing people. They need to make sure that the murder inside the town is good. They cover those tinier but yet larger scale economic features to the city. And if you take an entire band of guards away from the city, what could happen? So you bring that to their attention. You say, hey, these guys have bigger fish to fry. We have this to deal with. We have this to deal with. This is what we're willing to pay the adventurer who goes and deals with this. If you're not the adventurer who goes and deals with it, we will search elsewhere. And you do something like that in which you say, we will search elsewhere. Because searching elsewhere and finding someone else, that's going to tell your players, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But then who's going to get the money? Who needs the money? Why do you don't need money? You don't need money for gear. You don't need money for the fancy big swords you guys want. It's a whole twist of things in which you go, this is exactly how I want this to be. This is exactly how I don't want this to be. They want their swords. They don't want to not have the swords, the weapons, the magic, the food. They need to eat. They need to have money. So if they start off with sparing amounts of money, they're going into it going, all right, well, I've got this much money. I can buy this many foods. I'm good for this many days. Those days run out. And if you really want to be cruel and you want them to follow a path, so say the goblins, they go and they fight the goblins and kill off some of them, and a couple run away, and I guess goblins run away, they can't find them. No biggie, I guess, right? Well, what's a couple of goblins gonna have for a harm? They come back to town, they say, okay, this is what happened. Good on you. Here's the money. You can eat for a couple more days. You've set a hook. You set something that you want. You want your player to do this? Set it for them. If they don't want to do that, they're giving you resistance. Speed the days up. Be like, all right, 5 days have passed. You guys are out of food. You're out of money. What are you going to do? That lights a fire right under their ass. Now they're going to go back up to that guard. Hey, was that goblin party still around? We could go kill them for you now. You know, you got any other jobs we can do here? We're running out of money. You know, things like that. The second a tangible object, the welfare of the player itself becomes a problem, becomes an issue. Having those NPCs, not high-level NPCs, not doing the small jobs, all of a sudden doesn't become an issue because those small jobs are what's going to pay that player's living expense. Pay that player to be able to pay their way to live, to find new gear. And then, sure, they find a couple of pieces of gold on the goblins. That's a little bit of a bonus. But now they've made a little bit of a repertoire with the city guard. They've made a rapport. The city guard knows that they're willing to help out in need. That's good. You've got these good little bits and pieces of these wonderful little things. And now they'll start going back to the city guard. Hey, anything else? If you ever get anything, give us a call. You know, send someone for us. We'll be back here, you know, we're here all this time. They're going to slowly start building and building and building these realms of people. They're going to start making these relationships. They're going to start earning these people's respect and trust. And then out of the blue, they're going to get themselves into a pickle. And it's going to happen. Almost every player character is designed to fall into a pickle. It's 90% of the time not the DM's fault. A player character will get cocky. They will get enjoyably happy, and they will go, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. And you can tell them, I don't think it's a good idea, and they will go, nah, it's going to be a very good idea, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get glory, and I'm going to get fame, because that's what they want, or at least that's what most want. So they get this glory, they get this fame. If they kill a dragon, they're level 5 maybe. Dragon's got him backed in a corner. They've made a repertoire, like a rapport. My bad. Rapport. They've made a rapport with this city guard. And now this dragon is seen soaring through the skies. The city guard's a little worried. Why is this dragon here? Who disturbed the dragon? Who slumbered the dragon? It seeks out one of the party members. Maybe one of the party members didn't want to. Or maybe is trying to find the last known position of these party members. Because adventurers mean trouble. And trouble means dragons. 9 times out of 10. They go to the bar. They go and they ask around. What's going on? Where are the adventurers? Where did they go? And then maybe one person in the bar goes, I overheard so-and-so saying that they were going to go slay the dragon. And the city guard kind of shakes his head. He's probably a level 25 paladin at this point. He's into the epic levels or whatever. And he goes out. And he knows exactly where the dragon's den is because he knows not to fuck with the dragon. And he knows that the dragon is not allowed to be messed with. He knows that the dragon has a very interesting relationship with the city where the city doesn't mess with that mountain. And the dragon lives there. The dragon doesn't come and kill them because they don't mess with the dragon. And the dragon knows that the paladin is of high enough level and skill to kill it. And the dragon knows this relationship much like the paladin does, and he knows not to mess with the dragon. The player characters did not know that. So now the paladin, city guard knight, has now gone out and he has to go to the dragon's lair because more than likely that's where they are. And he shows up and lo and behold, that's where they are. They're there. They're being stupid. And it's the best part about it, because they have gotten themselves in this pickle. They've helped this guy. They've really just been going, oh, okay, well, you give us quests, we get gold from you. Awesome. That's our friendship. That's our relationship. That's all. They don't expect him to come and help him. They don't expect that all of this is going to magically pop up and they're going to be like, whoa, I expected this guy to come. I was waiting for him. No, they're fighting for their life. They're trying to live. And just before they hit that moment where they're not going to live anymore, he comes in. He saves them. He fights off the dragon. He tells them to get back to town. They're probably going to sit back. They're going to watch a spectacular fight. It's going to be amazing. And that is exactly the point. Now they're going, that was really cool. We have a lot more respect for this character. This character is awesome, wonderful. And that is where you get that character kidnapped. Could be weeks, months, years later down the road. They go back to the city. They go to visit the city guard. They're like, we want to pay our respects. We haven't seen him in a while. Or maybe they live in the city. And maybe the city guard, weeks, months later, they get attacked by bandits. And the city guard seems to not be able to fend them off. And now, in amongst all their adventuring and stuff, they've leveled up. They're closer to the paladin's level. The paladin, city guard captain, has been kidnapped. This gives them a chance to return the favor of saving their life. And it wraps all up in this whole, you hook one thing with another. And you keep the hook going. So, with a pre-generated, and this was like completely on a tangent here, but with a pre-generated campaign, you've got some of that stuff. But sometimes they give it to the player, and it's not tailored to your players. Whereas other times, if you do a pre-generated campaign, you may luck out, and it may be with the way your players think and feel. But tailoring your own campaign, building your own world, having it a little bit more sandbox and open, allows you to hook in these adventures. You can even have a world where an adventure is there. They get hooked in somehow. You build something into the world that you are creating with your players, and you throw an adventure in. And that's why if you're gonna buy, and this is a mistake that I learned, if you're going to buy an adventure, you have to make sure you do a little bit more research than I did, which was pretty much none, because I was just like, ooh, this is shiny and new, and we should try it. Now, you should definitely take a few minutes to just look it over. Make sure that the campaign, it's going to tell you what the campaign is like. It's going to let you know that this is where it's leading, and this is what's happening. And it's going to allow you to gauge it. It's going to go, okay, this campaign is about giants, and it's about people, and it's the players taking charge and them being the heroes. Is my campaign, or are my players I'm going to be the hero, and I don't need something to say that I'm a hero. I'm just going to do what is right. Because if that is the case, then that might be the one for you. But if it's not, then you definitely want to look at other sources. You want to look at other campaigns. There are plenty of adventures. There's one that I know my group would definitely enjoy, and I plan to run them through it eventually. And there will be stories with this podcast that will showcase some of those events that'll happen. And it is We Be Goblins, which is a free Pathfinder campaign. I think there's like 2-3 parts to it, where the characters and the players, they play as goblins, and it's a chaotic and sporadic and fun event. And at this point, we've run out of time, but 45-minute podcast. We're getting close to the end here, 30 seconds to be exact. But thank you guys for watching, or not watching, but thank you guys for listening and following through with this. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really do, because this is something that I've been trying to figure out and trying to lock down, and this seems to be working. I enjoyed it, and I enjoy talking about my adventures and the things I learn. if you guys really did enjoy this, definitely share it with your friends. And if you guys want to know about the song, it is Boogie Doogie by Mercer. I'll have a link for it.